Yes, yes.
Okay, sir. Okay, good evening to all. I'm going to now share my knowledge which I acquired during this 1 month internship on practical aspects of construction management. And I'm Annie Sharon, studying final year civil engineering from Assistant College of Engineering. Okay, I'm going to share my knowledge on these topics such as construction site safety, reading of drawings, construction methodology, quality assurance and control, and finishes. Okay, construction site safety. Actually, it's one of the very important topic to be known by all the site engineers and all civil engineers because our health and our life is more important when it comes to the work. So, as per the survey, we can see 56% of the accidents are occurring due to height factors, working in height or some things falls from the higher region, like etc, and 20% is occurred by trapped by something collapsing or overturning of materials or machineries anything, and 10% is due to stuck by a moving vehicle, and 5% with electricity or electrical discharge, and 4% by stuck by a flying or falling object, and 3% contact with moving machinery, and 1% exposure to hot and harmful substances, for example like any heating materials etc. So the first foremost thing we have to see is the safe access on site. So everybody should have a safe access to come to the site. So the edges for which people could fall must be provided with double guard rails or any suitable edge protection so that people won't fall off. And holes.
Here, access, na, for the access, that's the reason most of the construction sites, na, they have the
Yes.
barrigation. Because
Okay, sir.
the normal general people, they can't enter the project site because if anything goes wrong, the
Yes,
project
sir.
will come under problem. It's not a good practice also. So any
Okay.
construction site you visit, there will be all the sites. They will be closed with GA sheets or something, and security only will permit. Even the engineers who are going to the project site, they are given the orientation at the entry point itself. What are the do's and don'ts at the project? After then only they will allow in the major projects. The small projects there may not be an issue. If it is a major project or a construction, lot of construction machinery is working, lot of workers are there, and it is high rise happening, means without helmet you can't go to the project site. And you should have a orientation. That's the reason they have in every project they will have a safety park or safety orientation room at the entrance, and they will give the
Oh,
orientation. After then, with their people, you can go inside the project. You continue.
okay, sir. Okay, sir. And another thing is holes. Holes must be protected with clearly marked. As sir told, it should be fenced off from the public for the safety reasons. And another thing is electric cables. So especially during rainy seasons, they should be properly maintained and should be carefully insulated, or we have to like note the damaged or worn out pipes. So because it's when it comes to contact with water, it can seriously affect everybody who one would access the water. And also inside we have to use like plugs and fuses. Lot of new technologies are available in market. Like if there is a short circuit in any electric branch, the entire line will be cut off so that we can save lights. So we have to make use of these technologies in case of electric cables. And working at heights. Working at heights, as I told, it's one of the very important factor to be considered inside. Like proper nets and other features should be used while working at heights. And while using this ladders or scaffolding, proper fixing and the proper base support should be provided so that it can stand with the sturdy thing. And also, we should not use incomplete or damaged scaffolding. It should be like safe, and there we must provide the handrails and toe boards at all edges. So and another thing is helmet. We have to like wear the helmet for our own safety. You can see that picture. It was a picture where one falling steel object get pierced into the helmet. If the person doesn't wear any helmet, means definitely his head would be like pierced by the metal. So his helmet has saved him. So helmet is very important in the construction sites. And coming to ladder, we should not allow more than one person on the ladder. and it do not lean from a ladder in any direction. It should be like nearer to the object while we are working. So we should not allow others to work under the ladder in use, because anything may fall, or even the ladder may slip on the person working under. So we should not work under the ladder. And excavation safe measures. So while excavating, when the excavation is more than 1.25 meters, we have to provide shorings and battering supports, because we do not know much about the soil type, so it may slide off. So we should provide protective shorings. And also, if it is more than 2 meters, we have to provide guardrail or barriers. And also the cranes, vehicles like cranes, JCB, when coming near to the trench or this excavations, it should be like very cautious while moving, because it may slip into the excavations. So we should use stop blocks for the vehicles, preventing coming near the excavations. And another thing is crane safety. The weight of the load must be carefully estimated, because if we overload the crane, it may overturn or overslip. So we have to perfectly calculate the weight of the load, and then we have to load the crane with that load. And the load is also must be properly fixed. There should not be any eccentricity, because it may tend to slip as the load acts on one side of the crane only. And also the bankman must be trained to give clear signals. And good hoist. The picture on the right side is the hoist. It's some kind of lift for working in high heights. It should be installed by a competent person. The machinery should be maintained at a regular basis, so that it will be properly fixed. And also suitable base closure to prevent people. It should be like surrounded by nets or grills, so that it is safe for the people surrounding it. And the landing gates kept shut when the platform is at the landing operation. So a landing operation, or when it is in operation, the gate should be shut. So these are the some points to be noted while considering construction site safety, because safety is everyone's responsibility. So we have to take care of our own safety and also the safety of the people around us. So you can see the person is wearing, and also the wearing the safety equipments and safety jackets is very important. He's wearing eye protection and also safety helmet, the vest, and ear protection. Ear protection is very important while working inside, because there are a lot of noises sometimes. And safety footwear. Footwear such as runners or so light shoes will not be safe enough to work in a site. It should be like a high leather boots, or should be thick boots, and also safety gloves. And the right side pic shows the signages. Every site will have some signages which shows these instructions for the workers and the engineers inside the site. So we have to follow the signages when we enter into the construction sites. And next we are coming to the reading of drawings.
One
Drawing
second.
is
In
a way of.
safety, I would like to add. You go to the earlier slide.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, here again, you need to nowadays mask also required, na?
Yes, sir. Due to this
So,
corona
yeah, due
pandemic.
to this corona, all the sites are implementing mask and the gloves are mandatory. Those things they are mentioned. And above there is a spelling mistake. PPE required. There is a spelling mistake. It has to be corrected. Okay, you can do the correction. And because most of
Okay.
the people working in the construction site are from agriculture background, they don't know about the construction works. If they are new to the project site, they are tend to get an accident. So your statistics says, na, the people, because they are not trained
Yes, sir.
on the construction safety and all. So big companies, they are training the safety and they are giving the induction, the training, and after then they are sending the site. But small companies, they are directly sending to the site, and the accident happens, it hurts the workers, and they are getting a lot of injury and all happens due to the ignorance of construction safety. So in our CMTA, all the programs we give the construction safety before starting the work. So that is because that is very much important. For if you do any project or anywhere, construction safety one engineer should know. That's the reason we are giving an idea about construction safety. Earlier we used to, when we are in offline, first we give them an orientation for 2 hours, and with video and other contents. and after then only they are allowed to do take all the programs. But now we are in.
Drawings is a way of communication between the civil engineers. It's very important thing to be known by all the civil engineers, because design engineers communicates via drawing to the people in site. So it forms as a form of communication between the design engineers and the people working in the site for everybody. So a drawing sheet means it consists of plans, sections, elevations, schedules, and details. So we are now going to see each of the components which are present in the drawing sheet. So title block. Title block is generally present at the bottom of the drawing sheet, and its size shape vary from projects to projects. Okay, but this is a very important section about the drawing sheet because it gives information about the project, company, and the copyright information, the plan number, the drawing sheet number, and the revision number, and scale of the drawing, and sheet number, etc. So it gives lot of information about the project and the about the drawings. So each one should read the title book before start reading the other drawings. And another important label is good for construction. So this seal is
In
important for the
title block,
approval.
there will be a drawing number and reference will be given, and a title also will be there, and who are the stakeholders available. So that
Okay.
information makes you whether you see you are referring the correct project or not, whether you are using the correct drawing or not. You should verify. After then, you have to read the drawings. Means a lot of times
Okay.
the drawing looks similar, but that may be used for other project. So
Okay, sir. Yes, sir.
nowadays, the technology is advanced. They are having a barcode system. Your Paytm and Google Pay and all, you are using the barcode. Na? Same in a drawing sheet also, they are mentioning the barcodes because the drawings goes for their revision also. Because the changes keep on happening. So the engineer at the project site, they have to use the latest drawing. So the technology is advancing, and a lot of large companies they are having app in their mobile itself, so that you can refer the latest drawing only, which is available in the app. Apart from this, they are using this barcode system also, because thousands of drawing is coming. How it will be maintained? So they are using the barcodes also. That is the latest advancement in the drawings. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Okay, the next thing is good for construction. It's a very important label present in the title block. It is very important for the approval or initiation of a construction project. So we have to look for this, and it also includes the name of the client, architect, and like the project engineer or the in charge for the project. And the next thing is general notes. It eliminates the use of lengthy written explanations. The general notes gives all the technical information required for the people who are working in the site. It should be provided to easily understand the plan by the site people. So it includes all the general notes such as the concrete cover details and the dimensions, whether they are in feet or inch or meter, or the concrete mix ratios for the foundations and other structural compounds such as beams or columns, and what kind of water should be used, and the soil test details will also be included in the general notes. So it consists of all the details. So the next is legend. So when reading the construction plans, the most important component is a legend. There are a lot of legends are used in the drawing sheets. Let me show you one example. In the picture in the right side, cloud or bubble type line indicates that there is some issue in that part of the drawing. So it should be corrected by the design engineer. So it indicates, these legends indicates the any error or any zones, correction zones in the drawing sheets. And another thing is abbreviations. So abbreviations are common in structural drawings. We have to understand some common abbreviations such as DP for depth and DIA for diameter, and also there are a lot of abbreviations. These abbreviations will also be given in the general notes. And the last thing is schedules. So nowadays drawing sheets are consists of BBS tables and schedules for structural members, because it provides the easy understanding for the people inside, such as bar vendors or any other people, to easily understand how reinforcement is required in a structural member. So these schedules are written in the form of a table. So in the picture in the left side, it shows the notes. So the clear cover of the column slabings are given, and the grade of concrete for column is also given. So the drawing sheet consists of these general notes, legends, abbreviations, etc. So it's very important to read and understand the drawings for a civil engineer to perfectly execute the work. Okay, our next topic is construction methodology. The sequences which are taking place in the construction work. So the first thing is preparation before excavation. So preparation is a very important step because we have to check for any structures underground or above ground inside the boundary, any presence of water table, so that we can arrange for the dewatering works. So we should analyze the surroundings, and we have to prepare before the excavation process starts. So we can mark the layout and center line by manual or by theodolite or a total station. So the next step is excavation and foundation. So while excavating, if the foundation size is 2 meters into 2 meters, we should not excavate the exact size. We have to left 300 extra on all the sides for the working spaces, for tying the reinforcement, for all the works. So if the depth of the excavation is more than 1.5 meter, we have to arrange for the soil strengthening, such as some battered supports like that, so that it won't be slipped or it won't close the excavation. And also we have to arrange for the space to stack the excavated earth, which can be used for backfilling after we construct the plinth wall and all. And dewatering, as I told, proper arrangement for pumps and place for water to be dewatered should be done well in advance. And also safety boards, the safety signages should be displayed at the place of excavation for the safety of the site workers and all other people. And also machineries should be placed away from the excavation so that it won't fall into the excavation. And the next thing is marking of foundation. In the picture we can clearly see the plan, and it was exactly drawn in the field, and the places should be excavated. So these marks are marked by taking reference, such as permanent structures, by taking middle adjacent buildings or any road, anything. So the lines are marked using tape, right angles, marking blocks, marking threads, and marking powder, line powder, etc. So the footings, if they are marked using grid lines, means it will be easy. And the next thing is shuttering for footings. So shutterings are either done by MS sheet or still plywood and runners as per the client requirement. And we have to apply shuttering oil or grease or any diesel or waste oil of petrol engine vehicles over the shuttering material before placing, because it won't extract the water from the concrete. And also the shuttering should be properly supported by wooden supports or MS
See,
props.
see,
And
one thing I want to say, the waste
yes,
oil
sir.
we should not use. Nowadays, a form release oil are available. We should use that one only. Okay, that correction you have to make it. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Waste
Okay, sir.
oil we should not use. We should use the oil, grease, diesel, and all. We should not use actually. Nowadays we have to use the form release oils are available, agents are available. We have to. That is a good practice. Okay, you can correct
Okay, sir.
yourself there and you can proceed. Natarajan sir also came. Annie is presenting the her learnings. You can watch and you can comment also. After then the classes will start. Yes, Annie, you continue.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Then we have to check for the plumb and inside dimensions of the footing, and checking for diagonal also. And then there's RCC in footing. So before doing the RCC works, we have to test the concrete strength and slump cone test for ensuring the quality of the concrete. And during concreting, if the slump is more, we have to reject it. And during this concreting, pour the concrete in layers and vibrate the concrete properly using there are many kind of vibrators available in the market, needle vibrator or anything. And we have to cure for the proper days, at least 7 days. And de-shirting should be done only after 24 hours after inspecting whether the concrete is set or not. Then after the finishing of the footing works, we have now come to the column works. So starter, we have to cast a small piece of column before the main column is cast. It is known as starter. It why we are casting starter means it is easier to establish and verify the center line of the starter. so that if any error in center line or can be predicted if we start with the starter. And also the grade of concrete should be same which is used for the column for concreting the starter. It should also cure it for at least 7 days. And the next is column reinforcement above footing. The lapping of column should be done. The care should be taken to have staggered lapping. So, according to IS code 456, lapping should not be done at points where 50% of total number of rods in a column. So, lapping should be taken care. It should be lapping should be done at the middle of the column when going to the upper floors, and they tie the stirrups as per spacing shown in the diagram. And also the take care the column reinforcement should be protruded at least one lap length above the level of concrete. So the shuttering in columns are done using silver wood plyboards, or now the many kind of shuttering works are available, MS sheets with MS props or anything. And also slab and beam shuttering, it can be with the same MS props and silver wood with plyboards. And also the shuttering time is very important. For beams spanning less than 4.5 meter, it should be 7 days. And for the beams spanning greater than 4.5 meters, it should be 14 days. The reinforcement for slabs and beams, it should be placed carefully as per the drawing and the design details. The chairs and spacer bars are provided in reinforcement because chairs are provided to separate layers of reinforcement, so that the top reinforcement are not subject to any creep, so that the concrete will be filled between the top and bottom. And the diameter of the chair should not be less than 16 mm, and the spacing should be 1 meter center to center. And the spacer bars, we are using the spacer bar between the rebars in the bottom or top reinforcement. It provides some distance to accommodate the concrete between those two rebars. So the standard practice is that spacer bar should be of maximum diameter of the bar for which the spacer bars are providing. If you are using two bars, which is one 10 mm and another thing 16 mm, we should take the 16 mm as the diameter of the spacer bar. Then comes the block work. Using masonry drawings, the mason will start a starter course. This starter course helps us to produce the first layer in a correct order, so that we can follow the same course for the upcoming courses. So it is the process continued to replace succeeding courses. So for every course, the plumb is checked for the verticality of the walls, and floor bar is also used to check the alignment. Then comes the plastering. So the plastering is started after the completion of the block work, and bull marks also marked on walls for equal level of plastering on the walls or beam levels. And the water is sprayed, the wall is sprayed with water before the plastering works, so that the blocks won't absorb the water from the plastering cement. Then the plumb is checked for every coat of plaster. For external plastering, the minimum 20 mm of thickness is provided. For internal plastering, 15 mm is provided. And for ceiling plastering, 10 mm thickness is provided. So then the next topic is quality assurance and quality control. So the quality control, what do you mean by quality control? Means producing a product that meets customer satisfactions and fit for use as per standards is known as the quality of the product. So it should be like meet the customer satisfaction. It should be with required quality. For example, the aggregate should meet the quality as described in IS 383. So the operational techniques or standard of maintaining standards by the quality assurance and control should follow these steps. First, we have to inspect and then check and then testing, and then comes the reviewing of the results. So quality assurance means it's a plan or implementation to assure that the work will satisfy the quality requirements. So by, for example, by conducting tests as per IS codes for the materials in the task, or documentation is also some kind of quality assurance. So let's see some of the field tests for cement, aggregates, sand, and blocks. So the first is cement. So the date of packing, the date of manufacture should be seen on the bag. It's very important to note the date of manufacture, because After the opening of the bag, the cement will be good for the only 3 months. So we also know that the strength of cement reduces with age. So it's very important to note the date of packing and the color. The cement should be uniform in color. It should have a color of gray with a light greenish shade. The color of cement also gives us the indication of excess lime or clay or the degree of burning. So it should be important to check the color and the rubbing. We should take a pinch of cement between the fingers and rub it. We should feel smooth. If we feel rough means it shows some adulteration with sand or indicates some presence of dirt materials. And the next thing is physical feel. We have to insert our hand into the cement bag. We have to feel a cool feeling because the cool feeling indicates that no hydration reaction is taking place in the bag. We know that when cement reacts with water, it undergoes the hydration reaction. So during hydration reaction, heat is emitted from the cement. So we have to make sure no hydration reaction takes place in the bag. And the next is float test. It should the cement should float for some time before sinking into the water. We have to test for that. And presence of lumps. So why they are testing the presence of lumps means it indicates that no setting has taken place. If setting has slightly taken place in the bag means we can see some lumps of cement. So we have to ensure that there is no lumps of cement. And also shape test. We have to take 100 gram of cement and make a stiff paste, and we can test the cement with mortar, or we can test the shape of the cement. So these are the steps to test the cement in field. And next comes the aggregate. Sorry, bricks and aggregates. So the first thing is water absorption. So we have to take around 5 bricks and we have to immerse in water for 24 hours. So we have to take the brick weight before immersion and after immersion. So the difference in the weight should not exceed 20% of the average weight of dry bricks. It indicates the good quality of bricks. And by visual inspection, the shape and the quality, color, rectangular shape with sharp edges indicates the good quality of the bricks. And efflorescence. Efflorescence is nothing but it shows the presence of salt deposit. So we have to take a brick and we have to immerse in distilled water. The whole water is allowed to be absorbed by the brick and evaporated through it. So after the brick appears dry, a small quantity of water is placed in the dish and the water is allowed to evaporate as before. So when we have to take the brick from the water, if we see no deposit of white color, that is salt, no deposit of salt means it has no efflorescence. If 10% of area of the brick is covered with salt means it is light efflorescence. If it's around 50%, it is moderate efflorescence. If it is more than 50%, it is heavy efflorescence. If the salt deposit consists of occupies the entire portion of the brick, it is very heavy, highly efflorescent. So bricks for general construction should not have more than slight to moderate. So it can have 10% up to 50%. That's it. So dimensional tolerance we can inspect with our naked eye, and the hardness. Hardness is checked by nail test or any scratching the brick with any sharp materials. In the picture we can see if it resists the nail impressions or any scratches, it is then good enough. And next is soundness. We have to take 2 bricks in our hand. We have to stuck with each other. So the good brick of good quality should not break, and a clear ringing sound will be produced. And the structure. So it should be homogeneous, compact, and free from defects such as holes, lumps. We can easily see from our naked eye. Next comes the field test for aggregate. There are a lot of tests for aggregates in lab as well as field tests. So some of the important tests is sieve analysis. We have to sieve them fine aggregate as well as the coarse aggregates before starting the project, and elongation and flakiness test. So you can see in the picture the elongated particles is in the right side and flat particles in the left side. So we should have moderate aggregate. It should not be more flat or more elongated. And the color, shape, and water absorption test is also done for the aggregates. It should not be more than 20%. So fine aggregates, the testers are sieve analysis, silt content, and bulking of sand is also important. And next comes the important part, quality test on steel. So the easiest thing to identify is the length of the bar should be between 11 to 12 meters, because 12 meters is a standard length of a steel bar, and the steel should not be corroded, and it should appear gray in color. So in lab there are a lot of tests for steel, tensile strength tests, chemical tests, elongation tests. In site, the most commonly done is bend and rebend test. So the specimen should be bent at included angle of 135 degrees. Okay, and then it should be aged in boiling water for 30 minutes, and we have to let it cool. And then rebend to included angle of 157 degrees Celsius. Sorry, degrees. So if we do not see any crack or rupture, then the steel is in a good quality. And also the weight per running meter. So it is calculated by D square by 162 kg. So D is the diameter of the bar. So for example, the 10-meter bar should have a weight of 0.167 kg per meter run. So we can test these things and we can ensure the quality of the things in the site. Then comes the last part, the building finishes. So I'm just now going to share my knowledge on painting. There are different types of painting like oil-bound distemper, plastic emulsion, royal silk painting, oil emulsion painting, wallpapers, texture painting. Different paints are used for different needs and functions. So the basic steps involved in the painting is we have to check the type of paint approved for the project. For example, for steel means we will go to some kind of paint. For normal residential buildings, we will go for some kind of paint. So we have to check the type of paints. Next, we have to prepare the surface for painting. We have to clear any holes or defects. So we have to prepare the surface, and then application of oil-based primer coat, the first coat over the plastered surface. Then we have to apply one coat of Brilla putty to ensure the smooth surface, and we application of sandpaper to remove the undulation. So we can use 80 to 100 grade sandpaper. Then we have to test some small region, test patch 1 meter into 1 meter. Then if the color everything is okay, we can go to our work. Then we have to maintain a checklist for each and every activity. And then after the first coat, we have to apply a second coat of primer application, and then followed by Brilla putty, and then sandpaper, and at last we can paint our wall. So some components we have involved in painting is first is Brilla white putty applications. So generally 2 coats of putty is preferred, and the coverage is about 25 square feet per kg for first coat, and for the second coat is 12 square feet per square feet. Okay. So the cost of Brilla putty per bag is, so the weight of one bag is 30 kgs and the cost is rupees 600. Next is the sandpaper. Sandpaper is a rough, the surface is rough because it is made up of abrasive minerals like aluminum oxide, etc., which are glued on the surface of the paper. So these minerals have sharp points or edges which help us to remove any defects or undulations in the wall. So the for generally for the first coat we use 80 to 100 grit paper, and for the second coat we use 120 grit paper. Next is moisture meter. Actually, these are instruments which are help to detect the level of moisture in different materials. So it is used to check the moisture level in walls. So the acceptable moisture level in general walls is less than 5%. The next is DFT, dry filling thickness. It is used to measure the thickness of the coating. Okay. So the machine consists of a sensor. It should be placed on the wall and indicates the thickness of the wall in the device. So it is used to measure the paint thickness, and it is measured in mils. 1 mil is equal to 1/1000 inch. So the details for painting and the cost details are given below. For primer area, it is 125 square per liter, and the cost of primer is 25 rupees per liter, and the putties is for first coat 25 square feet per kg, and second coat 12 square feet per kg. So the labor cost is also we are including rupees 2 for these applications. So these are the details of paintings. Okay, thank you. I thank you, Mr. Ashok Kumar sir, and all other trainers, Mr. Narajan sir, and Mr. Suresh sir for teaching these things to us. It was a great journey with them. Thank you.
Good report, Annie. All the best for your future also. Sir Natarajan sir, your comments, any comments for her? Yeah.
Yeah, I have seen that report from Annie. I have given some this one what you call the comments. So based on that, she has rectified that. Some photographs for quality control and safety. I have
Okay.
asked them to ask her to add it. She has done it. No problem. Good.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you. And you can start your presentation for the students.
Right.
Annie,
Right.
you can stay on and you can attend the classes also. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Okay.
So good evening all participants. Today's topic is